So unfortunately, that's very common for Iranians in the West.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of them they're celebrating the propaganda. The AI videos is like they're Iranians wearing bikinis and doing OnlyFans. It's like finally they're free. Look at all these beautiful hot women who could do OnlyFans now. So it seems bigger than just okay freeing them from this Ayatollah. It's like definitely Western values and well I don't even know if you want to classify it as that. It's hard to clarify what Western values are, but it's like they are definitely pushing the fact that, okay, now they can strip naked and parade around gay pride parades rather than be oppressed by an Islamic regime.
Yeah, they have like such a retarded understanding of what freedom means or like quality of life means. Like it just ends at the ability of women to show themselves naked, like or like show their hair and like be sluts, basically. Like that's the extent of their concept of freedom. And it's interesting though, some of them got red pilled. Like I know actual Iranians who they were, fully on that kind of liberal, libtard mindset. And then they kind of got red pilled and they were incels. They couldn't get married. And then they did a 180 and they're like, actually, no, we need to keep women in cages. And the Ayatollah is right. And so they kind of went the opposite direction.
Well, okay, cages is definitely extreme, right? But that's, there was a funny.
I'm not saying that that's what I endorse, but I mean that's the kind of mindset that they switched to because they're like, yeah, all this time the Ayatollahs were right about Western decadence and like, yeah, this filth and degeneracy of the West, and now we see it for what it is. Because some of them are like in this situation where they think they know because of the internet and even satellite dishes that will get Western TV, like MTV. MTV was really popular in Iran amongst like entire generations, and they have this mindset that's just so much fun. It's so much fun to be in the West, and it's just about partying, it's about drinking, it's about dancing all night at the club. Like that's their mindset of the West, and they don't recognize, some of them, until they get older, or some of them actually come to the West, that well, actually like it's a pretty depressing lifestyle. Like it's pretty depressing when you're actually in it, even if you do like the stuff like drinking and whoring around or fornicating or whatever. Even if that's something that you like, eventually it gets old. Like eventually it gets old and there's no purpose to it, and it's just like a monotonous, pointless life. And that's why you have such high levels of depression and antidepressant use and all of these problems, and you can't actually get married to someone that doesn't have a body count in the triple digits, and someone who actually loves you for who you are. Like all of these problems, they can't really see that when they're in Iran.
Yeah,
necessarily. So.
I'm good friends with Nick, and I'm in a group chat with some of his some Groypers, like a lot of the Clippers, and they go at me all the time, and they make fun of the fact that I'm not Christian. And I like arguing with them because there's a major similarity. And there's one that I got them on. They're like, oh, Muslims need to stop invading our countries and stuff because white replacement. And I'm like, okay, well, why are so many Westerners having more dogs than children? And they all go like, yeah, you kind of got a point. Like that was like the first time that I saw them all go, yeah, you kind of cooked us there. Like there's in the UK, for example, I think Western white Christian families they're having kids, 0.89 kids per family, per household. Muslim families are having almost 3 per household. And there's more dogs. There's more dog households than children households right now in the UK. So it's like, okay, yes, there's a lot of immigration because countries get destabilized by Epstein Empire warfare. They come in. All right, but at the same time, if you don't want to be replaced, then, okay, something needs to be addressed with feminism, with partying, and prioritizing dogs and the feminization of men. I saw that video of an Iranian. I'm sure you saw it. She's crying. She goes, oh, she's like yelling, and I'm not sure what the language is. Is it Farsi?
Farsi.
Yeah, she's yelling, and then her husband is there with this earring, and he's like hugging her, and it's like sobbing too. And it's like, okay, well, maybe it's like a depiction of what's wrong in the West, and it's not just a complete description of Western values, but this is the clear parasite that is destroying it from the inside. And so like they like to blame that it's all this external factors and it's radical Islam taking over the West, like what Alex Jones says. Okay, but what's going on internally? What's being promoted? What are the values? Because there must be some value problems too.
I mean, this is the problem with like the Groypers and Fuentes and some of these Christian nationalists,
W.
is that
Daniel,
they
W.
think that you can
Snako,
change
W. Iran,
society and
W.
really
Islam,
reform things
W.
in the right direction,
Sanabio
like in a
Shia,
traditional direction,
W. Boom
by
Boom
just like
Tel
a few
Aviv.
slogans and like wearing a cross and going to church once a week. Like they think that if you do that and you really have Jesus in your heart, then that's going to magically transform society and suddenly make it traditional and based. But that's not how it works. Like there's a reason that Muslims have been resistant to secularism. Like Muslim lands have been exposed to secularism and liberalization, the feminist agenda and the liberal agenda for over 2 centuries now. And yeah, it's had an effect, unfortunately, but we've been far more resistant to those influences than Christianity has, or even Judaism has, or Hinduism has. Like all of those religions have sold out and basically reformed their religions, but Islam has a different distinguishing factor that gives us the upper hand, and that's like we have a system of law. Like we have Sharia law, and we really believe in it. Like we really believe in it. We're not like Jews that are trying to find in the religion of Judaism. Obviously, I'm not trying to characterize all Jews, but within Judaism, you see Jews try to find loopholes, and they try to get around the laws of God. Like how can you actually turn on the lights on the Sabbath, even though it's technically work and you shouldn't? Like, how can you get around the rules? Like, that's how they treat their law. Christians don't even have a law. Christians don't have like a system of, okay, what are proper gender roles? Like, what does it mean to be a husband, to be a obedient wife? Like, what does that actually look like? Islam goes into that in depth. Or like the banking system, like, well, what is wrong with usury? Like, why should you avoid it? Why should it be banned? Like, what is the correct type of financial practice? Like, there's very detailed laws in Islam that we uphold to this day. Like, Muslims uphold it, we practice it, we take it seriously. But first of all, Christianity doesn't have that, and if they want, even if they wanted it, they don't have that in their religion unless they go back to like medieval canon law, which none of them seem to want to do. But even if they did have it, like the Jews, it's not clear that these Christian nationalists want to change their lifestyle.
Yeah. And
like
if you look back,
it's not clear.
Yeah. Well, if you look back to when there was Christian law, they reference the monarchies in Europe, and look at the law that was in place at the time. The women had to be covered. They had to be, they were supposed to be escorted around in public. Not escorted in terms of OnlyFans, but they had to be protected. They had their heads covered. There was restrictions on things like alcohol and gambling, and they prevented the certain type of banking that's prevalent today. And a lot of it is very parallel to Sharia law. So they say, okay, it's a Christian country, and then the representation of Christian law, the only time that it last happened, it was very similar to Sharia law. And I'm not advocating for Sharia law in America, but so what specifically? I want to ask you people what specifically is Western values, which is a separate conversation, and you covered that extensively.
Well, it's funny that you said like you don't advocate Sharia law, because there was like these white nationalists that preceded like this current wave of Zoomers who adopted Christian nationalists. But if you go back like 10 years or even 8 years, there was a meme amongst the white nationalists. First of all, they would say Islam is right about women. Like you've seen this meme, right?
Yeah.
They would go actually and post on campuses like Islam is right about women, just to like trigger liberals, because liberals would be like, oh, that's Islamophobic. But how? Like, we're saying Islam is right. We're saying Islam. How's it Islamophobic? So they would try to get this contradiction from the liberals, but they would also want white Sharia. Let's say like we want white Sharia. We love the Sharia, but we just want a white version of it. And so the white nationalists, these are nationalists. Some of them literally are like national socialists, and they want Sharia because they see the benefit of having a law that you follow. And do we want Sharia as Muslims? Do we want Sharia in America? I would say we want like the values of Sharia, yes, because that's God's law. Like that's the way that humans were meant to live. Like as a creation of God, like we want to live according to God's law. We want that like in a positive way. Like we want Americans to accept, willingly accept Sharia law by recognizing that it's a superior way of life.
Oh, like that's going to be a clip that they're going to use. That's going to go viral on Twitter. They say Sneeko and they want. Well, I think the ideas of freedom of speech in the Constitution, there are major contradictions. So it would hard to even classify it as still America. with that.
Well, I mean, that's what Americans want. Americans want that for the whole world, don't they? Like someone like Nick Fuentes and these nationalists, they think that, well, their constitution and their understanding of freedom of speech and these kinds of rights that are embedded in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, that's what they want to impose on the rest of the globe, right? They want, in fact, they want to force everyone to accept that as a superior way of life and be subservient or subordinate to the Western order, right? Like that's the whole point of the international order and international human rights law that every country is subjected to, is this idea that we as the Western mind have determined the perfect way of life and what is the best for humanity, and that means accepting these laws, and they impose it. And if you go against it, if you go against their Western liberal order, they call you terrorists, they sanction you, they might invade you to get you to abide by the law of the world, international human rights law.
They got it wrong time and time again over the past 50 years. So much of the geopolitical intervention from America has been a disaster. And when they try to instill democracy, it's just ruined the country that they invaded. I do want to get into more of that later, but I really want to ask you about Iran, especially because it's important to learn the history about Iran. I was learning yesterday, I was watching a lecture trying to figure out about the Shah and the Islamic Revolution. You've seen the propaganda. They always push videos like, oh, Iran before the Islamic Revolution, and they show these really nice videos where the women are walking around free and they're in bikinis in public. Oh, look how it was so beautiful back then. It was perfect. And they're like, this was Iran before Sharia plus communism. And you're like, what is that even? Sharia plus communism? That doesn't make any sense at all. And people eat it up like slop. And then you figure out that the UK and the US, they were controlling the oil in Iran once the Brits discovered oil there. They had the British Petroleum organization or company that derived afterwards, and they would only give Iran 16% of the profit that came from the oil. And so Iran's like, okay, we're getting scammed. You're stealing all of our oil. Can we get 50%? The UK went to the US and they said, we don't like that at all. We don't like that deal. And it kind of makes sense today why Iran is refusing to negotiate, because they tried to negotiate once with the Epstein regime and look what happened. Afterwards, they staged a coup d'etat and they instilled the Shah. And the Shah created a police state, he liberalized the country, and then eventually he was overthrown in 1979. And then you have the Ayatollah. Is that a correct way to describe recent Iranian history?
Yeah, it's for the most part, but you're missing, there was the first Shah. So the first Shah that was installed was Reza Pahlavi. Or he wasn't installed, like he came into power. And Reza Pahlavi is the father of who you're talking about, which is Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. So there was like Reza Pahlavi, then his son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who was deposed in 1979 by the revolution. And now you have Reza Pahlavi. So they all have the same name, basically. They all have the name Reza Pahlavi, but there's three separate guys.
Okay.
And it's like father, grandfather, father, and then son, which is the current, prince, quote unquote. So yeah, your history is pretty much correct. But like the westernization that came with Reza Pahlavi, he was like a figure like Ataturk in many ways. Like he determined that Iran needs to modernize. So he brought a lot of industry, established a lot of institutions, like the roads were paved. This is like in the generation of my grandfather. And then Mohammad Reza Pahlavi is the generation of my father. And at that point, like there was the coup d'etat. Mossadegh was the kind of the socialist that was deposed. He wanted to nationalize like the oil production and kind of put limitations on the British. And yeah, he was overthrown basically, and Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was installed, and he did a lot of liberalization in the country.
And that's the Shah.
And he was also like with an iron grip. He is also Iran was one of the first countries to recognize Israel. Actually, Turkey and Iran were the two like Muslim countries, actually countries in general, who accepted and recognized Israel. And they didn't really care that, okay, Israel is killing Palestinians or is at war with the Arabs. They said, well, those are the Arabs. We're not Arab. So because they were secular, they were like, yeah, we recognize the state of Israel. And even Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the son, he also had good relations with the Zionists.
And is that who the Shah was? Is that Pahlavi was the Shah?
They're all the Shah. Like Reza Pahlavi was the Shah, the original. Okay. Then his son that was installed.
So it was a monarchy.
After the coup, that's Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who's also the Shah, like he's the Shah. And then, because his father had died before, and then now the prince is also Reza Pahlavi. He's the one in Boston.
So it was a monarchy with the police state, and
Yeah,
okay, and so the
and
first
they're Zionists.
in the first Shah was a Pahlavi. Was it a crypto Jew? Because a lot of the theory is that Ataturk was an undercover Jew.
I don't think they have that theory with Reza Pahlavi. His actual name was like Reza Khan, and at the this is early in the 20th century. So I don't think he was a crypto Jew.
Okay, and how were the Iranians able to overthrow? Because obviously the people must have been overwhelmingly against this Shah, against this regime. They act like everybody was on board with it, but clearly it seems like the majority of Iranians. What's the separation right now? Because again, right now the narrative is that the majority, PBD, is going all over. You formerly, I think you were the last Muslims actually even going to show, and he's going everywhere saying, "I'm a numbers guy." So 80% of Iranians hate the Ayatollah. Is that true? What's the separation? How were they able to overthrow the Shah if Iranians were, if they loved how liberal it was, and how separated is it today?
There's a lot of animosity towards the Shah because of his savak, like his police force, his secret police. They were very brutal. They cracked down on any kind of dissent. And there was just a lot of stratification, like economically. It seemed like a lot of the elite classes were benefiting and the lower classes were left out. So there was a lot of also communist sentiment. And so you had a figure like Khomeini, who comes and like advocates not only like Islamism and this kind of Shi'i revolutionary mindset, but also like bringing in some socialist aspects as well, like redistribution of wealth. And so he was able to unite a lot of factions, not just the Shia like religious factions. And it was a popular movement, and they were able to depose the Shah because of some of the tactics as well, because the protesters to the Shah, they're being told by Khomeini, like he was teaching them, that when the soldiers are, pointing the gun at you, their rifles, and they want to kill you, you just throw flowers at them. Literally take flowers and throw it at them, and that will demoralize them. And they won't some of you might die, but you'll be a martyr, you'll be a shaheed, and this is for a righteous cause. So that kind of peaceful protest tactic was very effective. It was effective in kind of neutralizing the security forces.
Flowers
and
won?
So the Shah was kind of the student movement, and a lot of the students were very active in this in Iran. They're the ones who started storming these government buildings and taking over. They took over the U.S. embassy, which caused the hostage crisis, because you had Americans being held hostage, and that was the start. That was the overthrowing of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi.
So that the flowers beat the Shah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of it, yeah. You can simplify.
Did they worship the flowers the way Modi did when he was standing next to Netanyahu? The Indian Prime Minister was just talking about how India is the motherland, and Israel is the fatherland. He started worshiping the flowers for the Holocaust memorial. Were the Iranians worshiping the flowers too?
No, I don't think they were, but
okay.
It was a funny clip.
So what do you think the separation is now? How many Iranians, because it seems like most Western Iranians, they're like celebrating the fact that Trump and Epstein regime, Netanyahu, they're bombing their own country. It blows my mind that they're like so happy. Trump, you're the best man ever. Thank you for bombing my country and killing 160 schoolgirls that were going to school that day. They tried to learn math and they ended up getting killed by you. Thank you so much. What's the separation now? How many people are for and against the Ayatollah?
Well, it's hard to say because things are changing very fast. But because he was assassinated by the U.S., Khamenei was, that's creating a huge boost in the popularity of the Islamic Republic. Like basically, Trump made Khamenei a martyr and a legend, like in the eyes of many Shia. Because at one point, like you have a large, like silent majority of Shia. Because you have a lot of religious Shia who aren't necessarily supporters of the Islamic Republic. They weren't supporters of Khamenei. But the fact that Khamenei was killed like this by the great Satan, that's like really raised his value in the eyes of some of these Shia. So a lot of these Shia in Iran are actually becoming more radicalized, like not more radicalized, but they're becoming like big supporters, like hardcore supporters of the Islamic Republic. And then you have the moderates who are shifting and they're becoming conservative. So everything is like being pushed to the right, basically, in terms of support for the government there.
Okay.
And this is one of the unintended effects. I don't know how Trump and his advisors like didn't realize, maybe because they were just taking orders from Bibi, but the effect of these airstrikes taking out the leadership, taking out Khamenei, is that they're uniting the entire country behind Khamenei, behind the Islamic government.
I think that there's something to say that maybe this was a trap set by Khamenei, that he strategically allowed himself to be martyred like that. He knew that they were going to try to get him because he's 86 years old and reportedly he had cancer. So if he actually was assassinated by the Epstein regime, look at the effect that it's had on the axis of resistance. Look how it's woken people up. I've never seen Pakistan, Yemen, Iran, this united. The people there, I've never seen this sort of warrior spirit awaken within them. And for them, now they understand what's going on. First, they burned the ball statue with Netanyahu and Trump on it with the Star of David flag and the American flag. Now they saw that they assassinated the guy that was leading their movement. And they seem to be completely activated. So potentially, I don't know what you think, did he allow himself to be assassinated specifically because it was a strategic war move? Because he proved something that the Epstein regime will never be able to do. Netanyahu, where is he? In Germany hiding? Trump is going to advocate and say, more Americans are going to die. But, like his family are never going to fight. He dodged the draft. So he's getting Americans to die for Netanyahu and for Israel. They've admitted now that Iran didn't even pose an imminent threat on America. Can't believe they're saying this. Marco Rubio is saying they didn't even pose a threat. It was just an existential threat. So we need to get rid of it now. Do you think that this, not only is it waking people up because it's proving the difference in mentality, but did he allow himself to be martyred?
It's possible. It's possible that that he just made this final gesture, final move. But, I don't think he would put his own, willingly put his wife at risk and his daughter and granddaughter. I don't think he willingly did that. Maybe they chose to stick with him. Maybe they chose to be with him in those times. So I don't know. But yeah, it's very possible that he knew that this would be a rallying cry, his death would actually unite the country. And it's 100% on brand, for Shiism. If you understand Shiism, it's part of Islam too. It's not just Shia, but the Shia really emphasize this idea of us versus the world, overwhelming odds. They actually like to be the underdog. If they're not the underdog, something is wrong, in the Shia consciousness. That's part of the Islamic revolutionary spirit. And if you have your main leader, because Khamenei was succeeding Khomeini, everyone knows Khomeini, he was the leader of the revolution in 1979 that deposed the Shah, and then Khamenei replaced Khomeini, but Khomeini died of natural causes, he either had cancer or he had a heart attack. He just died. He wasn't martyred. Khamenei, however, is being martyred, and that's 100% on brand. You're killed by the great Satan. That's how Hussein died. Hussein was also killed by an oppressive tyrant, Yazid. And not only was he killed, his family was killed in the most brutal, unjust way. And that's the grandson of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mm-hmm. So that's something that Sunnis also believe, obviously, and it's also something that we aspire to have the bravery of Hussein to go against all odds and stand up for justice, even at the cost of our own lives. That's a value that all Muslims should have. But with Shiism specifically, and with the Iranian revolution, the Islamic revolution, that is so core to who they are and their identity. And now Khamenei fits perfectly into that. Mm-hmm. And all the skeptics and the doubters who thought, because there were a lot of Sunnis actually who said this too, that Iran is actually in cahoots with Israel and it's all a show, it's just fireworks, they're just play fighting, and it's a big conspiracy. Okay, well, this proves that no, Khamenei is dead, he was killed. The great Satan actually took him out, so that proves that he was legitimate in their eyes. Mm-hmm. So this is a big blunder on the part of the U.S. and Israel that they've turned him into a legend. And again, I know you talk about his family and things, and he wouldn't want that to happen. But for the people that think that it's insane or schizo for me to question whether that was a strategic move, guys, let's remind ourselves. They said he had cancer. He was 86 years old. So how much time did he really have left anyway? Right? This is
that would have been, that could have been a very strategic war effort. But again, that's speculation.